What's going on, everyone? So within the next couple of weeks, my wife is going to be giving birth to our first child. Now, there were a couple of ways that I saw this going.
Babe, can I have a foot rub? Babe, I can't put my shoes on. I feel like a whale. Babe, can you do the cat litter? You think you throw a snail? Babe, I know it's late and you're working. Can you cook me roast potatoes?
It's 10 o'clock.
If I was a greetings card, would you pick me?
What does that even mean?
Babe, can you do the cat litter?
Again? Right, let's get some work done.
I'm so fat. I can't fit into my clothes.
But really, this is what we've been told to expect, right? The reality, however, is somewhat different, and I've had to change the way that I approach my day-to-day in order to best support her. The lessons that I've learned over the last 9 months have fundamentally changed my life, and I thought that I'd take the opportunity to share them with you. Because, well, there are some resources online available for this kind of stuff, but I don't think the realities of the pregnancy and everything else really hits home unless someone's able to sort of share their own individual experiences. Typically you'll find pretty generic information out there. But I thought I would share my story to show you exactly how I've dealt with the last 9 months, and hopefully you'll be able to take something from this as well. I've decided to break down this video into 3 different sections to highlight the different changes that happen in each 3-month block of the trimesters. I found that each of the trimesters is completely different, so I felt that this was the best way to kind of structure the video if you want. Feel free to jump around depending on what trimester your partner happens to be in at the second, and hopefully you'll find some relevant information there for yourself. Trimester 1. So when I found out that my wife was pregnant, it wasn't really that, euphoric moment that you've come to expect from sitcoms and TikTok and things like that. I think the idea that was sold is that you should have this really sort of strong feeling from day one, that you should be overjoyed or feel really angry, or, there's no sort of middle ground here. But in my experience, it was considerably less Hollywood than that, and actually it was more of a, oh, okay. Not really grasping the full sort of reality of the situation. I was happy about it, don't get me wrong, but I wasn't sort of overjoyed or euphoric or anything like that. And I think that's totally normal. I expect there will be some people who have been trying for years and years and will have that sort of elation, that real euphoria, but that just wasn't the case for me. And other people that I've spoken to have had sort of similar reactions as well. That's totally fine. Every journey is completely different. As we went through the first 3 months, we realised that, thankfully, we were sort of blessed with a quite easy first trimester, all things considered. She was a little nauseous, which, by the way, can be helped with ginger nut biscuits. These. This is 100% not the case with every woman. Some get just awful nausea throughout their first trimester, and some get nothing at all. Thankfully, we were in more of the latter camp than the former, and we got away with it pretty well. But again, just sort of adapt the way that you approach and help out, depending on how your wife's actually feeling. There's no guidebook for this. You need to be quite adaptable and quite flexible depending on what's going on. The level of support that will be required from you as a partner will vary considerably depending on the circumstances of your partner's pregnancy. But if you're really concerned, reach out to your GP. Never be afraid to ask them any questions or anything like that, because that's what they're trained for. And the amount of assistance that they can provide, the amount of mental well-being that you'll get from getting answers, just can't be understated at all. We did find that in the first 3 months, that because there isn't so much of a show, not so much of a bump if you want, that my wife felt a little sort of concerned that things might not be okay. And I think that just sort of stems from having not gone through this before. You don't really know what to expect. You get told things that you should expect to feel, and when you don't feel them, you can get a bit concerned. At that point, we decided to actually take an early scan. I know in the US you can get scans way earlier on, but in the UK, typically you get your first scan with your GP or with the NHS in about week 12. But we ended up paying for a private scan at week 10 for about £75-ish. And the amount of sort of relief that provided to my wife's anxiety was just enormous. So if your partner is feeling like that, that's definitely a route that you could consider. Now, the one thing that is a massive stereotype throughout this first 3 months are the cravings. And each woman, again, is different. In our case, my wife had an enormous craving for just roast potatoes. Roast potatoes and gravy. If she wants to have roast potatoes at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday and you have to go out because we haven't got any in the freezer, then that's what you're just going to have to do. It's her body's way of telling her that she might be missing something of nutritional value. So it's important to just be flexible, be patient, and just do what you need to do. During this time, I also learned to be a lot more proactive when it came to chores and things. There would be some days when my wife felt absolutely fine, but some days where she wasn't feeling so great. So just being proactive and having one less thing for her to think about made a massive difference. Outside of that, I also started to cook family meals for us, just to make sure that she got everything that she needed and didn't rely entirely on cravings. Otherwise, every single meal would have been roast potatoes. I also made a commitment during the first 3 months to go to every single maternity appointment that I could. I explained that to my boss, and particularly as a first-time father, there were a lot of things that I wanted to understand from the midwife that you can't really sort of appreciate by reading stuff online. So I made sure to write down lots of questions, turn up and be sure to kind of engage in the whole process. You learn so much about the entire process and what's going on and what your choices are, what your options are. It helped out massively, and it allowed us to make decisions as a couple, rather than my wife having to decide and me just nodding and agreeing. From going to these appointments as well, I learned that in Surrey we've got a pregnancy health line. I'm pretty sure that's the same throughout the entire UK. I don't know about the US and every other country worldwide, but in the UK anyway, in Surrey, we have a pregnancy helpline which you can call 24 hours a day if you're ever sort of concerned about anything. So that was amazing and really, really helpful. We used that a few times, and it's an incredible service. And I do hope that's rolled out everywhere, but check with your GP, check with your midwives. Finally, I took the time to start reading some books and articles about sort of being an expecting father. I found that Primer magazine and The Art of Manliness had a couple of articles that were really, really helpful in telling me what I should be preparing for and pointing me in the direction of some good books, particularly for those for fathers, because a lot of the time they tend to be more geared towards the mother rather than the father, and there are sort of more specific books that you can buy. I've linked a few here for you to check out, and then there's also some in the description below as well, so you can click on them, go through to Amazon, pick them up. Personally, I really like them. I thought they were really, really helpful and helped me understand the entire process a little better. There's a fly in here. Go away. Trimester 2. So trimester 2 is when things started to become a little more real. My wife started showing a bit more, so there was a bit of a bump starting to form, and of course it's when we started to tell people as well. At week 20 we also discovered that we will be expecting a baby boy, which was really exciting for both of us, but it's totally natural as well to be perhaps disappointed if you were sort of hoping for one way or the other. I was definitely like that. I've always wanted a daughter. Not that I was against having a son, of course. I've just always fancied having a daughter. So there was that feeling, and I felt a bit guilty about it. But it turns out there's a lot of people that kind of go through this as well, and it's totally natural. And after a little while, once you've sort of settled into the realization, you just start kind of going with the flow and loving regardless. Now, when we started telling our family, thankfully they were really, really happy for us. They were elated to be welcoming a new member to the family. But I know that not every pregnancy is the same. I've spoken to a couple of my friends who had quite intrusive family members actually, in terms of deciding things for the baby on behalf of the parents, such as diets and names and things like that. At the end of the day, every family is going to be completely different. You just need to be patient with them, but do remember that you are the parents. So at the end of the day, it all starts and ends with you. You make these decisions and you don't have to justify them to anyone. That's your prerogative, not theirs. And if your family are being really, really intrusive, you may need to consider kind of withholding certain information from them and just kind of letting them find out stuff as you decide stuff. Much easier to be asking for forgiveness than permission at that point. At this point as well, my wife's cravings had completely changed from just roast potatoes to full-on Sunday roasts. Thankfully, she seemed to enjoy the process of making those herself, so that was great. But we also started having more sort of pizza and Subways and takeaways and things like that. So seemingly her body was telling her that she needed more carbs and saturated fats. But our midwife advised us that this is totally normal process, but just to make sure that all of your meals kind of contain everything that you might need. So again, I carried on cooking family meals as well, maybe chilies and spaghetti bologneses and things like that, just to make sure that she wasn't lacking like a really big food source or anything like that. So about halfway through trimester 2, my wife actually hit a bit of an emotional wall and started getting quite sort of worried about it. She was worried that maybe she wasn't doing the right things. It totally didn't help that we were in the middle of a lockdown at that point either, so there was very little that we could do. So as a partner, all I could really do is turn up, be patient, be loving, be supportive, and just sort of ride the wave with her. Just reassure her that she is doing everything she possibly can and that she's going to be an amazing mother, which she is. There was a bit more sort of movement from the baby in trimester 2 as well, particularly sort of near the end, around the kind of 22 weeks, something like that. And I found that that was a perfect time to start engaging with the baby personally myself. So maybe I would kind of talk to the belly, or I would sing or play guitar or something like that, which, my neighbours and my cat really didn't appreciate particularly. But, you know, you've got to make these connections early. And your baby can start to hear things as well and start sort of, you know, hearing, understanding your voice and recognising your voice. So it's a perfect time to start doing it. Also, I started encouraging my wife to come out with me for daily walks just to get a bit of exercise. The midwife told us that it's quite important to get a bit of exercise in just to help your body kind of adapt to these new changes that you're going through and also prepare it a bit for the birth. So even if it's just a 10-15 minute walk every single day, it's great to get her outside and into the sunshine. And finally, this is when we started kind of compiling a list of all the things that we might need. At this point, we started picking up some clothes for baby as well. And a massive tip that I have from you is Facebook Marketplace, because we ended up buying about 3 bin bags worth of kind of newborn to 6-month clothes for around £20. Massive bargain. Don't buy new. No need. And finally, trimester 3, which is where we're at now. We're sort of near the end of trimester 3, I guess. And honestly, I found that trimester 2 flew by for us. It really felt like it was about a month, but no, it was 3 months. And it just flew by. And trimester 3 was here, and we thought, we've got to get ready. My wife started fluctuating between bursts of enormous amounts of energy and then needing to collapse and have a nap. So again, you need to ride those waves, you need to turn up a little more and be prepared to really pull your weight a bit more in terms of the household chores, so including cooking, cleaning, washing up, things like that. At this point, we started preparing the nursery, which I'm sitting in now. This was my old office. I've now moved that into the lounge. I'm going to do a nice little video about that coming up soon as well. But yeah, so I had to learn a few new skills, such as painting, hanging wallpaper up, hanging up blinds and things like that, just to prepare the room for the arrival of our little boy. Also learned that baby stuff is super expensive, and some things it's worth buying new, such as a pram, just for mainly safety reasons, to make sure there aren't any kind of structural issues or anything like that with pre-owned prams. Not everyone can afford that, I appreciate, but if you can afford it, that's probably one of the things you'd probably want to get new if you could. We were also advised by our midwife that when Mum is asleep, she should be sleeping on her side, not her back and not her front. At this point, I ended up buying her a pregnancy pillow, which is this sort of U-shaped pillow, which she can put between her legs, and it kind of encourages her to sleep on her side rather than her back, and gives her the support that she might need. Naturally, because she was going through these fluctuations of having lots of energy and then no energy, there were a few heated arguments. But again, as the partner, you need to appreciate that she's going through all of these sort of biological, mental, physiological changes. It's really important at this point as the partner to be a bit more patient and be empathetic to what she's going through. And it's important to reassure her, even when she compares herself to a hippo, even if it's funny. We're quite near the end of the pregnancy now, and my wife's now on maternity leave. She ended up finishing work at about week 36, something like that. Honestly, that was kind of pushing it a bit. She was really quite uncomfortable during week 36. So if you can afford your wife to go on a little earlier, I'd probably recommend that. Week 33, maybe 34 or something at a push, that's quite an ideal time to probably step back from work, especially if she's commuting rather than working from home. Finally, I started stepping up again and becoming really proactive with sort of helping out around the house and doing chores and things like that. But obviously with work, with YouTube, and doing all the household chores and cooking and everything like that, it's super easy to burn out. So the best thing to remember as a partner is to also give yourself a bit of time to unwind, because it's so easy to be burning the candle at both ends and completely burn yourself out. Don't do that. I did that. Not advised. And those are all the things that I learned during the kind of 9 months that we've gone through so far. I'd say that we had a pretty uneventful pregnancy, which definitely came as a blessing. But I know that everyone's experience is going to be completely different. But hopefully there'll be a few things there that you can sort of resonate and recognise, and my experience will perhaps help you in some way. So overall, I'd say that the most important things to be are just loving, compassionate, and patient. More than anything, patient. What women go through to bring life into this world is honestly nothing short of magic. And it's been so humbling to see all of these changes over the last 9 months. Well, I hope that this helped you in some way. If you found it useful, let me know below, and perhaps I'll make an update video once the little man comes along to let you know what the first few months are like as a brand new parent. I'm definitely nervous, but incredibly excited now. You'd think that 9 months would feel like a long time, but it really didn't. It creeps up on you so quickly. So just take things slowly, do things as you go along, and hopefully be prepared in time for when the baby drops. So I'm praying for a really sort of uneventful birth. It will just go smoothly and that'd be cracking. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. But if you did enjoy this video, let me know in the comments section below. Is there anything that resonates with your experience of your partner's pregnancy so far? If you'd like to see more from me, hit that subscribe button. I upload new videos at 9 AM every Monday. But until next time, ta-ra.